Alright everyone, well today I wanted to go over a list of the 10 most used rare champions in Raid Shadow Legends, as well as the reason why people decide to use these champions so much. All of the rares in this list are going to be worth 6-starring and leveling up to 60, and this list is as of April 2020, so just keep in mind that as the game evolves, things may change a little bit in this list here and there. And also, I thought I would say, if you're already an advanced player, this type of video might not necessarily be for you. You probably know a lot of this stuff already, but if you are newer to the game, or if you are wondering who you want to 6-star next, this video will help you out tremendously. So let's get right to it and start off with number 1, and this is actually a champion that I would not have included in a list like this a couple of months ago, but since she ended up getting buffed, she's easily going to take the number 1 spot in this list, and it's also a champion that you will see a lot of mid and endgame players still actually use in their roster. She is competitive with tons of epics and even legendary champions. That is how good she is, and that is, of course, Frozen Banshee. Her poisons are insane. The amount of DPS she does is insane, not just for the clan boss, but also for late stage dungeons. So if you take a look at her skill kit right here, you'll see she has a poison that applies when the enemy is under poison sensitivity. However, her third skill right here is the skill that also applies that poison sensitivity. So once you have her third skill go off, now you have that poison sensitivity, and now you're always going to be getting poisons from her skill 1, which has no cooldown. And it says 80% there, but you can see with skill books, you can get it up to 100%. Because these are all rare champions, skill book should not really be too big of a concern. So these two skills alone are an absolute game changer when it comes to the DPS that she does. Then you have her second ability here, which also gives a turn meter fill to allies, depending on how many debuffs are on the target. And of course, because you're going to be placing lots of poisons, you should actually get some really nice usefulness from this ability as well. And of course, she has her aura, increases ally accuracy in all battles by 35. And like I said, this champion, you will see her in lots of mid and even end game players' roster. She's incredibly competitive with her DPS, even compared to epics and legendaries. You will always see her at the top of the list in terms of DPS. If built properly, that is how good she is for a rare. So easily number 1. And now let's move on to number 2 on the list. So number 2, we're going to go to the High Elves here, and of course, this is going to be Apothecary. Apothecary is a staple champion in the game. You'll probably hear people talk about him a lot, and he is very good and very important. Easily worth 6-starring and leveling up to 60, and there's really 2 things about this champion that make him stand out. The first thing is his second ability right here, which is his heal. As you can see, heals a target ally by baseline of 35%. You could boost it up to 50% though. It can also crit as well, which is really important because getting crit on your gear is going to be kind of one of the things that you want to aim for. And a 50% heal that can crit with a 2-turn cooldown is huge. This is going to be a big game changer in terms of having a support on your team. Then you have his third skill here, which is his increased speed and his turn meter fill. This is huge. This is a game-changing skill for certain areas of the game, especially like the arena. The fact that you can also get it down to a 3-turn cooldown is also insane. And the combination of the heal as well as this increased speed and turn meter fill makes Apothecary one of the best rares in the game. He also has a skill 1 that attacks 3 times as well, which makes it really nice for the Giant Slayer mastery. And then his aura increases allied defense in dungeons by 21%. Alright, now we are moving on to number 3. And another staple champion in the game, easily going to be worth 6-starring and taking to 60. One of the best DPS champions in the game, even though she is a rare, and that is Coldheart. Now, the biggest thing about Coldheart is actually her Heartseeker skill right here, because it's based off of enemy max HP. This is an incredibly powerful effect because it doesn't just scale off of your gear, it scales off of the HP that enemies have. So when you're facing enemies that have an insane amount of HP, because this skill scales off of that, now you're just going to be doing more DPS simply because the enemies that you're facing have more health. That, as well as the fact that it decreases the turn meter, it has extra chance to inflict a crit. I mean, this skill's just got a lot going for it right there. But her other skills are also very good. Her auto attack, or I always say auto attack, this is because it's the default skill when everything else is on cooldown. Her skill 1 is attacks 4 times at random, so very good for Giant Slayer. 25% chance that you can boost up with skill books of placing that heal reduction. And of course, you have her second skill, which adds decrease accuracy. It's an AoE as well, which is nice. And it places poison if they're under heal reduction, which of course, because she has that on her skill 1, probably going to be true a lot of the time. So you're going to be getting that poison from her second skill. So insane skill kit, insane DPS, just not only one of the best rare champions of the game, I would honestly go so far as to say one of the best overall champions of the game. Easily compares to epics and legendaries. The amount of damage she does is absolutely crazy. Now we're going to move on to number 4, and we are going to go to the Dark Elves. And number 4 is going to be Kale. However, I will also say that kind of as runner-ups, I'm not going to include these as part of the 10 champions because it feels a little bit cheesy, but all of the starter rares are honestly really, really good and probably going to be in the top 10 list of most used champions. So not just Kale, you've also got Athel of the Sacred Order, Elaine of the High Elves, and Gaelic of the Orcs. Those are the 4 starter rares, and they are all going to be much better than just the average rare. They all have very good skills, very good multipliers, a solid AoE, and they're all actually good champions. So definitely don't feel bad about taking any of them to 6-star or level 60. But I want to talk about Kale probably because he's the most picked one, and probably the one that a lot of people are going to talk about the most because of his versatility. So you've got his skill 1 here, which is, just places a poison. It's the weak version, but that's okay. That's not really the shining point of Kale. His second ability here, his area of effect, attacks all enemies, has a extra 15% chance of inflicting a critical hit, fills the turn meter by 25% for each enemy killed. This has a huge multiplier as well, so the amount of damage that you see from this ability is absolutely crazy. If you build this guy properly, you're going to see some big damage numbers from his Acid Rain. And it also fills the turn meter when it kills stuff, which is really nice as well. And then you've got his poison here, which is the strong version of the poison. Really, really nice. And it attacks 4 times at random, which means for something like the clan boss, it's going to always hit the clan boss because he's the only enemy that you're facing, and you're going to apply lots of those poisons. And again, this skill also has a high multiplier, so you're going to see a lot of damage from it, as well as lots of poisons. Just the fact that Kale is such a powerful champion that is not only good in, say, the clan boss, but he's also good for the campaign, farming. He's even decent in dungeons. He's just a very versatile champion, also with the amount of damage that he does. Easily going to be in tons of, top lists for most used champions. All right, now we are moving on to the Barbarians here, and we are going to go to War Maiden, if I remember her icon. Nope, I know it's not that. That was marked. War Maiden, here we go. Okay, so War Maiden is going to be in this list here, primarily not only because she's a very good champion, which she is. She's got a very strong area of effect that has the strong version of decreased defense. She's got this ability here, which places an extra hit when she crits, but also she's a farmable champion, which is really nice. Let's see if I can remember which stage you can actually farm her from. I believe it is, I want to say it's the Deadlands, right? Yes, it is. So it's the Deadlands. So you can actually farm her, which means you don't need to rely on the RNG of your Ancient or Mystery Shards. You can actually just go and run stages in the Deadlands, and, if you get lucky there, you will end up getting a copy of her, and then you can work on building her up. So very strong champion. The combination of that AoE, the attack that hits again when it crits, and her decreased defense makes her a very strong choice. Next up, we are going to the Dark Elves, and we're going to talk about a support champion now. Definitely going to be in a lot of people's lists of their first champions that they build up to 6-star and 60, because she is one of the best easy to acquire supports in the game, and very similar to War Maiden, she is also a farmable champion, and that is Spirit Host, of course. And if I remember which stage to farm her, I know it was one of the earlier ones. Let's see here. And there we go. So here she is, and that is going to be in the Durham Forest, which is going to be stage 4. And she has a very strong skill kit for a farmable champion that is support based. So if we go back, you'll see the really big shining point about her is her Strengthen, which is the strong version of increased attack on all allies with a 3-turn cooldown. She also has a removes all debuffs on all allies and a block debuffs for 1 turn with a 5-turn cooldown. She's got that speed aura. It's not super strong, but it's still a full speed aura useful in all applications of the game on a farmable rare champion, which is really, really nice. So those are kind of the strong points. She does have a heal on her auto attack, but or her skill 1, whatever you want to call it, but You know, you're not really going to be building her up for damage. You're going to be building her up to stay alive, to get the usefulness from her support. So very nice champion. Next up on the list, we are going to go to the Ogryn tribes here. Let's see, Ogryn tribes, and it's going to be Bellower. Now, the reason why Bellower is on this list here is because he is going to be a lot of people's go-to campaign farmer. So for farming, you know, brutal, stage 12-3, 12-6, this guy is, if built properly, he's going to be able to one-shot all of the waves. All of his abilities are area of effect, which is really important for, you know, farming things like the campaign where you're killing multiple enemies each wave. And on top of that, each of his abilities actually has stuff on top of it in addition to just doing damage. So, you know, you've got your block cooldown on his first skill, you've got your decreased speed on his second skill, and you've got decreased attack and defense on his third skill. Even though they're the weaker versions, this guy still does AoE on all of his abilities. He's going to do a lot of damage, and he's got a lot of other stuff to kind of go along with it as well. So he's a void champion, which means he doesn't have to deal with those you know, affinity penalties as well. And you're going to see a lot of people pick this guy as their campaign farmer. Next up on the list is a champion that might be a little bit surprising, but I'll tell you guys why he's in the top 10 most used rares. And we're going to go to the Demon Spawn, and it's going to be Felhounds. Now, this guy is in the top most used rares list for one particular reason, and it's actually his reflect damage. So this guy is going to be for the Fire Knight specialty. It can be difficult to really find a lot of extremely good champions for the Fire Knight, so the fact that this guy has a reflect damage, which means that when the Fire Knight actually attacks your team members, they're going to attack back and kind of weaken his shield. And it's a full team reflect damage as well. You can see continuous heal buff and a 15% reflect damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. And you can actually get this down from a 4-turn to a 2-turn cooldown as well. So if you're looking for somebody specialty focused in the Fire Knights, this is a great champion. He also has an area of effect on his skill 1, so you can also turn this guy into a decent campaign farmer in addition to being a Fire Knight specialized champion as well. And he's got that block damage buff on a single ally as well. His aura increases ally defense and faction crypts. Nothing really too noteworthy, but the combination of his reflect damage and his area of effect attack makes him good for the Fire Knight and the campaign. Next up on the list, we are going to go to the High Elves. So High Elves, and of course, it is Reliquary Tender. Now, this champion was introduced to the game a while ago, and as soon as she came out, everybody was very excited because for a rare champion, she is very, very strong. Another support champion like Spirit Host, and the main thing that really shines about her is her second ability, Tender's Watch. Removes all debuffs from all allies, so you have that cleanse effect right there, which is really nice. Then places a 15% continuous heal buff on all allies for 2 turns. And the great thing about this skill as well is she is a rare, which means rare skill books. You don't have to worry about epic or legendary books. You can get this down to a 3-turn cooldown. So that's a very powerful ability to have on a 3-turn cooldown. She also has this revive here, revives an ally with 30% HP and fills their turn meter by 30%. And her auto attack skill 1 has that decreased attack tacked on it as well, which is just a nice little bonus. You can see with skill books, you can boost it up quite a bit. So for a support-based champion, very strong, easily worth 6-starring, leveling to 60, and adding to your team if you are looking for, you know, a bit more support, utility, and things of that nature. And the last official champion on this list is a newer addition, easily worth it, become a lot of people's go-to rare champion to add to their clan boss roster, and that is going to be in the Knight Revenant. Whoops, that's not Knight Revenant. Knight Revenant, and it's going to be Coffin Smasher, this guy right here. Now, he only actually has 2 active skills, but they are both very good. So you've got the strong version of decreased attack on his skill 1, which is really nice. Attacks 3 times as well, which means you're going to get a lot of benefit from, you know, the Giant Slayer mastery. So strong version of decreased attack. You can see it benefits from skill books quite a bit there as well. And he also has an HP burn on his second skill. So attacks an enemy has a 50% chance of placing an HP burn debuff for 2 turns. So very nice. Again, another big benefit from the skill books. Decreases damage from AoE attacks as well. He's an HP-based champion, which is really nice. So he's going to be very tanky and survivable. Very useful for the clan boss. And just a very solid champion. Easily worth 6-starring and taking to level 60 to add to your clan boss roster. Now, that is the end of the official list, but when it always comes to videos like this, there's tons of other champions. Just a few runners up that I wasn't able to include are champions like Painkeeper, Seducer, Doomscreech, Marked, Soulbound Bowyer, and more. I know I wish I could just make, tons of champions and add them to a list like this, but we're already at about 15 minutes, so I'm going to leave it at these 10, and hopefully this video helped out. So if you guys enjoyed and you want more videos like this in the future, consider subscribing to the channel. Feel free to leave a like as well. It helps out, and thanks for watching, everyone.